Hello and welcome to Lost Art Podcast. I'm Paul and I'm here with Gar.
I'm drinking some water.
I got you off guard there.
It's okay.
Today we're going to be talking about an interesting one. It's forget about the playlist for a minute. This is about musicians, artists, singers, whatever, who have not just a side hobby, but something much more intense and much more serious than that. Either a side job or a huge high-level qualification in something, or a possibility of another career, if not an actual another career, or some artists who have actually given up music to become something different completely. A lot of them do it. A lot of them, the ones that we've picked, kind of do it on and off, and probably will give up one day and go to do this career, whatever it is. I think it's an interesting one because there was a lot of ones I found that were more interesting than the other ones I thought would be more interesting.
Yeah, I found a few. I found a few that were I started off I remembered something about them, and I was like, okay, all right, I'll do it about that. And I go looking at it, and I find out they've done something else as well that was 10 times more interesting.
I know, I found that as well. A few people, I guess some people are just super talented at anything to put their hand. Most are things that they're interested in. They excel in.
Now I found one here that I guarantee you can't be in the top trumps of artist side jobs. I found the fucking god tier side job, the god tier, and I found it completely and utterly by accident. I stumbled across it. It was literally one line in a little article I read, and I went, "What the fuck?" And then I went looking again, and I was like, "Holy fucking shit!" Like, holy fucking shit. This is beyond.
Maybe you have someone, maybe you have most of them be. There's one or two in here that I'm like, whew, big.
Oh, fuck. There's one there. Oh, let's do it then. Let's do it.
You see, but you know what? I will say this. I stayed away from real estate. I don't know what you did.
Loads of them do
Boring.
Loads of them do it.
Absolutely. What's how can you be good at real estate? I got loads of money and I put it into property.
Yeah,
brilliant.
Yeah,
that's not interesting to me. It's great. It's a good example. But
exactly.
It's a good thing to do.
There was a few of them. Yeah, there was a few of them I looked at that definitely had real estate ones. The most interesting one was actually Vanilla Ice.
That's right. But he's different. He actually flipped houses himself, didn't he? Did he not?
Yeah. But his thing was renovation as well. Like, he was in there himself.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. It's not just like he just passes money on to a guy who knew what to put it into.
Exactly.
A lot of footballers and sports people do that.
Of course,
they have a stock portfolio, but they couldn't really tell you what it is. Just does the work for them.
Exactly.
But look, who is your first choice? Tell me about what their side job is.
First one very, very strange. And first one is Little John.
Little John,
right? Now,
famous rapper, Little John.
Yeah, exactly. I just randomly came across this. I didn't know anything about this. I had to do a bit of digging on it, and you'll know why I had to do a bit of digging on it now in a second, because it turns out that Little John produces porno movies.
Does he?
He does, yeah. Little John, in around 2005, 2006, entered into an agreement with Vivid Entertainment, who were like the world's top pornography manufacturer.
Wouldn't know.
Yeah, couldn't tell you. But Vivid are like the fucking kings of porn. Like, they just traditionally they would have been one of the driving forces in like DVD becoming big, VHS becoming big, all this kind of shit, proper media driven sales. Now, I don't know what they're doing now, because I'm sure the internet, like, porn now is just some fucking in a fucking bedroom. Like,
what was I watching where the DVD industry was destroyed? Was it
destroyed
or something like that?
Yeah, it was fucking insane. It just turned to shite anyway. Kind of once streaming became a thing for pornography, it was over. It was just over for porno DVDs and VHS.
And the great storylines left us.
Wonderful ones. Yeah, and the millions they spent making stuff like Pirates and all the big, like,
I know,
literally like tens of millions of dollars to make pornos, and then like within 2 years, it's like, man, no, I literally need porn for like maybe a minute and a half. I don't need an hour and a half of them. You know what I mean? And I can get that for free after 2 or 3 clicks.
Give it a chance.
Yeah, exactly. But Little John went into partnership with Vivid, and not only that, he was involved in a company called, what the fuck was this company called? I wrote it down here. They are called, I wrote this down. This is kind of important to the whole story. Motherfucker.
Called Yeah.
It's not far off that. Legacy DVD Works is the name of the company. Legacy DVD Works. And he has a controlling stake in this company. They are a big production company that work kind of under the umbrella of Vivid as well. So they do a lot of work for Vivid and a lot of the other kind of porno companies. But he has a controlling stake in this company. So he was able to turn around to Vivid and say, listen, I have this fucking idea about, a porno where it's like, me and the East Side Boys do a gig, and then a lot of the groupies come backstage and we smoke weed, and then we go off to the hotel, and there's a lot of banging going on. And they were like, that sounds fucking great, Little John. When can we make it? And he was like, fucking make it tomorrow. So they banged out one called, what the fuck was it called? Little John, the East Side Boys American Sex Series. He has a load of them, actually.
Is he in them?
No. In some of them, he's in there. There's one, apparently there's one where it's like Dragon's Den or something like that, where he's kind of the host. And there's women having a crack at each other, and women and men having a crack at each other, and he's going to sit in a big chair directing them. So he's like, suck her toes, whatever. Yeah. So he's directing them, telling them what to do. But he put a bunch of them. There's one called Little John's Vivid Vegas Party. He does the music for them as well. That's a big thing. He scores all of his own pornos. And I think they released the soundtracks now.
Yeah, is it going to be funky though?
I don't know. I assume it's just hard because he's the king of crunk, isn't he? So it's going to be just fucking absolute bangers over absolute banging. Yeah,
screaming while there's banging going on.
Exactly. Yeah. He
sounds like a horror show, to be honest with you.
Oh yeah, absolutely not. Now, what's weird about this? The first person to do this was Snoop Dogg. Snoop Dogg put it out fucking years ago, and it was just called Snoop Dogg's Doggy Style, and he put it out with Hustler. I seen this years ago. Someone gave it to me on VHS years and years ago when it came out, and it was grim as fuck. I always remember it being super grim. It was like did he just direct it, or no? He put his name on it. He's in it, but he's not riding or anything. He's in it. The whole thing, if I remember correctly, from Snoop Dogg's Doggy Style, if I remember everything correctly, and it's a long time since I've seen this. It's like a pool party, and there's like hundreds of people all dancing, and fucking Snoop Dogg's walking around with like the pimp chalice and all this kind of shit. And then randomly in different spots in the pool parties, there's people banging, and the camera is just kind of moving around, while like Snoop Dogg is kind of like whatever drinking Hennessy and Cristal.
Like the Hugh Hefner, and there's a camera there.
Very much. Now this was made in conjunction with Hustler. They financed it. And apparently that sold shit tons, and loads of it got weird in like the kind of mid 2000s that there was a massive.
What's his name? Larry Flint.
Snoop Dogg, I want you to walk around. Exactly. Yeah.
With a chalice full of crunk.
Exactly.
Okay. Yo,
man,
you're dribbling there, man.
Exactly.
Larry, you're dribbling, man. What's up with that? Why are you dribbling? Nice shoes.
Yeah. But in the mid 2000s, there was this real weird crossover between hip hop and porn, right? It got real big. Do you remember?
Basically, they just turned the camera on a party that they would have been having normally.
Very much so, right?
Because a lot of those rap parties and stuff like that, like even if like NWA said that their parties were disgraceful.
Yeah, exactly.
Disgraceful.
Yeah. Now, one of the weirdest things that came out with this was a magazine dedicated to porn and music. And this magazine was called Fish and Grits. Fish and Grits was the name of this magazine, right? And I don't know how many fucking issues it ran for. I assume it doesn't exist anymore. But it was dedicated to music and porn and the crossover of music and porn, which is batshit fucking mad. Now going back to Lil Wayne.
It got so big that they had a magazine dedicated to crossover.
It was everywhere. It was everywhere for a while. Loads of rappers, like 50 Cent and all, got involved. I think 50 Cent made like a music video for a song that was released on fucking DVD. And when you put the DVD in, you could hit like naughty or nice. And nice was like edited. And naughty was like full hardcore porn with like 50 Cent and his mates walking around rapping.
I do remember this being a huge thing, and they were just starting to outdo each other with more filth.
Yeah, they just kept adding dirt on. Little John ended up suing Hustler magazine in 2008, I think it was, or maybe 2003. And in mid 2000s, he ended up having a big row with Hustler because they made a porno. And again, this is around the time when like the whole hip hop and porn thing was huge. So Hustler wanted to make one of these or get involved in it, but they didn't want to pay money for someone like Little John or whatever it was. Right. So they made a movie called, what the fuck was it called? What was it called? Fat Tuesday, it was called. PH. Fat Tuesday, it was called, yeah. And basically it was about these two girls that go to a Little John concert. And apparently they actually went to a Little John concert and filmed bits of it. And then they filmed bits of it. And then they took the two girls took photos with a couple of random dudes. And then they kind of superimposed Little John's face onto one of the dudes. And then they used this. The whole idea was that these two girls were going to make it backstage into a Little John gig or whatever. And they were riding each other and riding the lads and riding the boards back there. Now, Little John wasn't in it, but because they had filmed bits at one of his gigs and like photoshopped his face onto a photo, he got wind of this and he sued them for 30 million. Now, we settled out 30 million. I don't know what he settled for in the end, but they sued them for 30 million. But yeah, he's like Little John. Geez, he's done at least 3 or 4 for Vivid, and I think when he got involved in that legacy DVD works, he might have been involved in a shit ton more, just as in a producer role. But it turned out a load of rappers in the 2000s were getting involved. They were getting involved in the porno end of things, because if they were down as producers, they were making a shit ton of money off it, and it was working out. Even if a DVD only sold, I don't know, 30,000-40,000 copies worldwide, they were still getting like half of the profit as fucking producers. Do you know what I mean? Compared to making like 10 cents a sale on the CD or 5 cents a sale on the CD. Even with lower numbers selling the porn, they were making equal money with producer roles, and it was fucking half the work. Like, you literally just show up and watch people banging.
I still don't fully know what a producer does. I think he does a bit of everything.
Producer just is like, if you
I used to think it was an editor. I was like, did they edit the film together? Yeah, that's an editor.
Producers are responsible for kind of the look and feel of the tone of the movie, and the directors. There's loads to it. Like, the look and feel and fucking like how it comes across on film. And then the director is in charge of fucking, he has to trust his producers that they've given him all the tools he needs to work with. So he'll show up and he might not know what, say you're making a film about a boat and there's loads of boats in it. The director might not have ever seen any of the boats before. He just looks at them as boats. And I need this boat to come over the wave and crash and explode. He doesn't give a fuck about what the boat looks like. But as far as I know, the way it works, producers are in charge of fucking making sure that the look
Speaking
of it.
Directors and boats, didn't Christopher Nolan buy a boat recently because it was cheaper than doing the CGI?
Is that what he done, really?
Read that the other day, yeah.
Was for Tenet, is it?
Or a plane or a helicopter? Yeah, he goes, hang on a second. How much is the CGI? How much is this plane they were looking for? Like an actual model of it? Yeah. This much. Buy that. Yeah, smash it up then. Anyway, that was Little John. I picked Little John Torn Down for What just because it's a little banger of a song. Turn Down for What?
Yeah, it's a little bit long, but it's a murderous fucking song. But yeah, that was a bit of hip hop and pornography. So who's your first one?
My first one is, well, first of all, I should say that all the song titles are going to give them away, or at least hints them. I've worked out a fun way of making, or at least relating it to us. So this is Iron Maiden, Flight of the Icarus. It's a very obvious one, but it needs to be talked about anyway because it's one of the biggest ones. The fact that Iron Maiden themselves are one of the biggest and longest touring metal bands in the world. I think they have 100 million copies. 100 million copies of 39 albums.
Jesus Christ.
Sold.
Outrageous.
That's not 100 million each. 39. That's outrageous. But they've sold 100 million copies. And they're together 45 years.
Mental.
But this is about Bruce Dickinson, who I think is their fourth singer. He's the second notable singer, but I think he's like their fourth singer.
Yeah, they got through a few, didn't they?
Yeah. He is a trained pilot. And that's, a lot of people know this. It's kind of common knowledge, but there's a lot going on with this. I thought it was just a kind of a thing for, the first thing I heard of it was when he was doing Ed Force One, which is when I'll get into that later, but the first time I saw anything do, I thought it was a publicity stunt. He'd just done a bit of a course and he was like hanging around like with a pilot like there and he was just helping them. It's not that at all. He is a fully trained qualified, and was for a good while for 11 years working as a pilot.
Wow.
Between stints of being in Iron Maiden and out of it.
Weird.
That's mental. He trained as a pilot in Florida in the early 90s when he signed up for a $30 trial lesson.
Really?
And he got so hooked on it. He became really proficient at it. He started taking it really seriously when he left Iron Maiden in 1993. He started flying small planes and getting really good at it. But he got so good that from 2000 to 2011, 11 years, he had a genuine second job flying Boeing 737s.
I remember reading something about this before.
This isn't just like it's a hobby. He had a paying job doing this. Like when he wasn't with Iron Maiden, he would go and fly planes because he loved it so much.
That's right. I remember this because there was two fellas I knew, two English guys that I met at a fucking comic convention or something like that years and years and years ago in England. And they were lovely fellas. And they turned out to be kind of mate to mate. So every time I'd be over in London, we'd end up kind of hanging out for a pint or whatever. But the two lads were fucking obsessed with Iron Maiden. We're talking like full battle jacket, but with nothing but Iron Maiden patches on it, that
their
level.
Their fans are very fanatic.
Yeah. But these two lads, I remember them telling me that they saved up to go on a little mini holiday and they timed it so that Bruce Dickinson was their pilot. They went to like Spain or something like that for like a weekend. And they figured out there's some website that tracks pilots associated with flights or whatever. And
I think there is actually, yeah.
And they timed their flights so that they could say that they were flown by Bruce Dickinson on their holiday and back again. Yeah. I remember that now, yeah.
Well, he worked for 11 years, I think it was on and off, but for one of the companies most notably was Astraeus Airlines, where he was just straight up a regular pilot for them.
Yeah.
And then in 2008, he and Iron Maiden commissioned a Boeing 757, which was his favourite airplane. They put the Iron Maiden logo on the side of it. They had fans come up with a name for it on the competition, and Ed Force One was the name that won. They modelled that on the plane to carry the band and all the gear for the Somewhere Back in Time tour around the world. That's fucking crazy.
That's cool.
And then Astraeus Airlines, until they went under, I think they went under in 2011 possibly. Yeah, 2011, because that's when he stopped working for them. They went under then. But until then, they've kept the Iron Maiden logo on that one because people really wanted it. Like, is this the plane with the Iron Maiden logo on the side of it? Yeah. He also, he's a really, really good narrator and presenter.
He had a show, didn't he?
TV. He had a show called Flying Heavy Metal.
Yeah.
That Flying Heavy Metal, in 2005, where I had a quick watch of it the last couple of days. He's a phenomenal narrator and presenter. It just comes naturally to him to kind of grip the crowd. But I didn't know that in the 80s he was in the top 10 foliists, which is a fencer.
Yeah.
I
remember reading about that. Yeah,
he's 10. Like top 10 he was until he went into I don't know, singing, I guess, or starting. His first band was called. Was it Saxon or not Saxon?
No.
Something, S. I can't remember the name of it, but not my bag at all. But I also forgot that 5 years ago he beat throat cancer.
That's right, yeah. That's right. They took a break for a while.
Yeah, he blamed oral sex on it as a reason for the disease 2 years after Michael Douglas did it.
Yeah, I was about to say, he wouldn't be the first person to do that either, would he?
No, so it's. I suppose when that happens, you just go, "That's what it's from."
Samson was the name of his other band.
Samson, that's it. Saxon.
Yeah.
So that's why I chose Flight of the Icarus. Very obvious choice. Very obvious choice for an artist that has a second job. But I mean, look, people would have went, "I can't believe you didn't put Bruce Dickinson in there because did you know that he's a pilot?" I did, yeah. That was Bruce Dickinson, trained at working pilot. Who's your next one?
Actually, just reading something there. The drummer from Samson went on to be the drummer from Simple Minds.
Did he? That's
my next one is the one that I don't think is beatable. I simply don't think it's beatable. And I'm going to tell you why. Because my next one is Akon, right? Now,
I like him.
Yeah, he's not a nice person, right? He is not a nice person at all. I picked the song Smack That just because it was there looking at me. I couldn't even tell you.
Is a song about a woman's face, didn't he smack?
I think so. He simulated sex with a 15-year-old on stage in I don't know where the fuck he was. He says he didn't know that they were 15 and they shouldn't have even been at the fucking gig if they were 15. But it turned out to be like some politician.
Does he not play gigs to 15-year-olds?
I have no idea.
Who does he think his fan base are? Aristocrats?
He seems to always have this fucking mad excuse. There was someone threw something at him in a crowd, and he made the crowd point him out, and then he had security drag him up on stage, and he basically gave them like a Brock Lesnar F5 off the stage back into the crowd, and they sued him. But then he said that was all set up. It was set up. It was like publicity for his next album. I don't know. There's a load of this mad ropey shit. Now, the reason I picked Akon is because I knew something weird about Akon, right? That I read years ago. And Akon owns a diamond mine.
Jesus.
Right? In South Africa. So in like 2004, 2005, he was kind of in the height of his money and his power. And he said to himself, right, I have to need to start investing a few bob in something, you know? So he said he was doing all the research. He's like, you know, everybody else has fashion lines. And he says, I'll do that as well. You know, I'll get a little fashion line going and, you know, that fucking energy drink or whatever the fuck everybody else does. But he says, I want something solid. You know, I was like, what do people always want? People always want diamonds. So he went off and he bought a fucking diamond mine in South Africa. Now, he also gave loads of interviews saying that he doesn't believe that like blood diamonds are real. He's just like nobody ever heard of blood diamonds before that film with Leonardo DiCaprio, and he's since come out saying, "Oh, maybe there is one or two of them." Now, here's where this choice gets interesting. That was 100% going to be my choice of what his side job was, and then while reading an article with him, I literally read one sentence that turned my world upside down.
Right.
And I had to go digging in it, right? So here we go. Akon was born, right? Nobody seems to know what age Akon is. This is weird as well. All the dates.
He's between 30 and 60.
Yeah, exactly. All the dates that he's given, none of them line up, right? Now, he was born in the States, right? He was born in St. Louis, but his family are all Senegalese. So when he was born Alayume Damala Badara Akon Tiam, right? That's his full name. Now, not long after he was born in St. Louis, he went back to Senegal and he stayed there for most of his childhood. So he says that he is fucking Senegalese, right? I'm fucking Senegalese. That's who I am. I was born in America, but I grew up here. This is my hometown, and this is fucking. No, I love it here. I love it here.
Yeah.
So this is fucking insane. This is fucking insane. In 2018, he announced his new venture, right? This is fucking mad. It can't be beaten, Helmet. It can't be beaten, right?
Give it to me.
He announced his new venture in 2018. Akon City.
Akon City.
Akon City, that's what it's called, right? They started development on it in 2018, and it's 3 square miles of Senegal that was given to him by the president of Senegal, right?
Right.
Now, he's building an entire city named after himself, right? It's right beside the airport. So in order to get anywhere, if you do fly into Senegal, you have to drive through Akon City. Now, it even gets better because the only currency that's accepted in Akon City is Akon's own cryptocurrency called Akoin. It's called Akoin. He has his own cryptocurrency. He has his own fucking country given to him by the government. And the whole place is meant to open in about a year's time.
Oh my God.
Hang on. Where's my mic? I actually have a microphone. Are you listening?
Yes.
There you go. That was the microphone dropping. I don't know if that can be beaten. I don't think there's a person on earth that has their own city and their own cryptocurrency that is only accepted. There's no cash allowed in Akon City. You are only allowed to use Akoin.
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 Yeah, do you reckon he's getting carried away with himself?
It's built and all. It's made. He's made it.
Just in general, do you think
100%. He's fucking mad. He's fucking mad. No one else on earth wants a city. Do you know what I mean? No one else wants one.
Like, people say that, like, kings died and stuff like that, but they didn't. They just kind of came back to life as different people. Like,
yeah, they came back as celebrities.
And fascists as well, I suppose. Yeah. Kind of like the Kim Jong-il and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They're just obscene. They're just, it's all about them. The world is like, they're convinced that they're 10 times better than the average human. Superhumans. enough to have their own city with effigies everywhere. And
3 square miles. 3 square miles of super modern city is what they're building.
Jesus.
Get the fuck out of here.
There'll only be just Akon songs and remixes.
More than likely. And he's in every single building. No matter where you go, Akon's there.
Yeah. And they'll all be driving A cars.
Powerbombing comes through walls now.
Touching 15-year-olds.
Yeah, exactly.
Sounds like shy.
Yeah, absolute garbage. I am not going to Akon City. That was Akon. Smack That is the song. That blew my fucking mind when I read that.
That's weird.
Isn't it? Who is your next one?
I have chosen Offspring. Why Don't You Get a Job? So, everyone knows the Offspring, California punk band. They've sold 40 million albums. Just for context, that's 10 times more than Rancid. But also for context, it's less than half than Green Day. They've sold 85. Smash was like one of my favourite albums growing up.
Still great. Still great.
Yeah, album. I listened to it today actually when I was doing this. I just
really good.
Before I know Run the Jewels dropped, I was listening to this. So the third album is their third album has sold 11 million alone. It is the best-selling, set a record for the best-selling record for an independent label.
Yeah, it was Epitaph, wasn't it?
Yeah, done. I think it's Epitaph.
It is.
Done on a budget of 20k. They wanted more, but the record label just went, no, you haven't really done it.
20k even sounds a lot for an album of that year for that style of music, doesn't it? When you think about it.
It does actually, yeah. But they had already sold. Before that, I think, what was one before?
Ignition, yeah.
That sold 15,000.
Yeah.
That's quite a lot.
That's not bad.
That's quite a lot.
There's one before that is just Offspring, isn't it? Both of those albums are pretty good as well.
Yeah, so I think selling that much gets you 20k budget. And they came out with Smash, which is a great mixture of a kind of catchy punk, but it's moodier and grungier for the time because of the time that it was there.
Yeah.
So did you know that the singer, Dexter Holland, is also a licensed pilot?
Fuck off.
Yeah, in 2004, he completed a 10-day solo flight around the world. Now, that's not why I picked him. That'd be boring picking 2 pilots, one after the other. Because as a kid, he was incredibly gifted with maths, gifted with maths. Just they were his thing. So he went on to earn, this is before Offspring, to earn a Master of Science degree in molecular biology.
Fuck.
And just as he was about to do his PhD, Offspring took off. So he said in 1995, when I get to 40, I'll go back and I will finish that PhD. Absolutely finish it. Now he did, but he did it when he was 50, so he was only 10 years off. So he returned to finish his research and write his dissertation focusing on HIV and immunodeficiency viruses. Imagine he found a cure for AIDS after releasing Americana. Which would be ironic.
Yeah, to be honest, pretty much everything after Smash is not good.
Yeah.
There's nothing good after. There's 1 or 2 songs, but the rest of it is scutter. Absolute scutter.
He ran in the 2006 and 2008 Los Angeles Marathon, and his charity of choice was the Innocence Project, which is a non-profit clinic that handles legal cases where post-conviction DNA testing could possibly yield conclusive proof of innocence. So that kind of ties into his
very cool
biology, molecular kind of biology.
Yeah.
If he ever decides to do a full-time career, that's going to be some career. If he wants to.
Yeah.
Molecular biology. An interesting fact, though, he's not the only singer of a Canadian punk band with a qualification in molecular biology.
Who?
Milo Aukerman from The Descendants.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
A doctorate and still studies it.
Yeah. Still
studies it. Although I think actually he gave up in maybe he gave up in 2017 actually to focus completely. But he was all this time. So Dexter is a little bit ahead with his PhD, unless Milo Aukerman has one. I think he only has a doctorate. So that's why I chose. There's something about California punk bands and their lead singer has been into molecular biology.
Weird.
That's why I chose Why Don't You Get a Job, because it's a funny title. Who's your next one?
My next one is Billy Corgan from the Smashing Pumpkins.
Yeah, if you didn't pick this, I would have.
This is a big one as well. Very interesting one. So Billy Corgan.
Sorry, just before you do it, it always interests me. They have to be fucking good at it, or otherwise I don't care.
Oh, not
just a hobby. They have to go, oh fuck, this is actually, and it's only when something starts really taking off that I care, because I'll hear about artists do this all the time.
For real.
But when I heard about Billy Corgan, I was like, okay,
yeah, that's a big deal. Like,
seems to be serious. Yeah, go on, tell me.
So I picked Cherub Rock just because it's a fucking murderous little song. So Billy Corgan bought a wrestling promotion. Now, he didn't just buy a wrestling promotion. He's been involved with wrestling, like kind of, I'd say 20 years, about 20 years he's been heavily involved in the professional wrestling world. Now, he's a lifelong massive pro wrestling fan, massive fan. I read an interview with him. He said like some of his earliest memories were going to see fucking WCW and WWF and stuff like that, you know. And
years before the world is a vampire.
Oh yeah, a long time before when he was just a little baby Billy Corgan, little baba. Little Baba Billy. Yeah, exactly. Baby Corgan.
That'd be a good wrestler.
Wouldn't it, Baby Corgan?
Baby Corgan. The world is a vampire.
So in 2001, Billy shows up at ECW. You know, ECW was like kind of
the second biggest, wasn't it, at the time?
Kind of. It would have been the third biggest. In the height of pro wrestling, you would have had WWF, then you would have had WCW, then you would have had...
Sorry, that's what I'm thinking of.
Then you would have had ECW. Now, both of those companies...
And then TNT after that, maybe?
TNA, yeah.
What did I say? TNT?
TNT, yeah. But that was the
name
of
DC wrestling.
That was the name of one of their shows, I think. The whole thing is a fucking mess. Yeah. So 2001, he showed up at like a pay-per-view or something like that and hit someone with a chair or some bullshit. And he hit someone with a chair and they were like, Billy Corgan from the world famous. Because they got a load of fucking press over, you know. So did he for showing up on fucking... like in 2001, ECW would have been not far off being an absolute train wreck, right? It was past it was still good, but it was past its prime, and it was floundering massively.
Did they just get poached? Did WWF, we'll call them for now, just poached all their best? They let them burn off, and then when they got big again, they took them back. It's like, okay.
Yeah, so pro wrestlers always worked on kind of contracts. So you'll have like a 2-year, 3-year, 5-year contract. So what WWF would do, if they like to look at you, they'd be like, listen, when your contract's up, like we'll give you fucking 4 times the money and half of the fucking road time or whatever, you know, make their life easier for them. And everybody, even if they were ECW fucking hardcore cunts, like this is, you know, we fucking founded this company. If like WWF was where you wanted to be, like, you know, that was the biggest one in the world. Like ECW had television shows and pay-per-views, but like the boys that they done compared to WCW or WWF would have been infinitesimal. Like, now for the hardcore pro wrestling fans, ECW was the only one. Like WCW and WWF were mostly aimed at children. They were mostly for kids, you know. They were selling the toys and the plushies and the blankets, but ECW was the one. So this is kind of the path that Billy wanted to go down. He didn't really have, like, you're trying to tell me that Billy Corgan and the Smashing Pumpkins couldn't have been on WWF Raw or SmackDown or something like that performing or got a run in. 100%. They could have. They could have made the call. You know what I mean? Billy himself could have said, he could have rang fucking Hulk Hogan or whoever, you know what I mean?
They were on The Simpsons, for fuck's sake.
Exactly. So they absolutely could have went to WWF and done a little thing there. No problem. But he chose ECW because he's a hardcore wrestling fan. So he'd done a little bit with them in 2001. He formed his own pro wrestling company called Resistance Pro Wrestling in 2014. Now there's a big compression. There's like 5 years of real hardcore Billy Corgan pro wrestling action that starts in 2014. So he starts his own company, Resistance Pro Wrestling. And it's more of like a kind of a touring indie type of thing. And he signed a deal with fucking, like, could have been Fox or one of the big TV channels. To make like a reality TV show. And it was called like Billy Corgan's Resistance Pro Wrestling. And it was really like behind the scenes about what goes into making a pro wrestling show and shit like that. It never materialized in the end because I think he might have knocked Resistance Pro on the head. Yeah, I think the whole thing got knocked on the head. So around the same year, which later in that year, maybe early 2015, he gets involved with TNA. Now, at this stage, ECW is gone. WCW is gone. And all that's left is TNA, right? Now, TNA was a subsidiary of one of the oldest wrestling promotions in the world called NWA. the National Wrestling Alliance, right? Now, NWA...
That's the original,
That's the original
association, yeah.
Exactly. So that was the big one. Like, everything except for WWF was NWA. Basically what NWA was, it was every single promoter in America was a part of the NWA, right? And they'd have like, you know, they had the country divided up into territories. So everybody would be fighting over their own belt, but there was an NWA championship belt that kind of reigned over all of them. Right. And every now and again, whoever the NWA champion was, he'd go to another territory, you know what I mean, and beat their champion or whatever. TNA came out with that.
Intercontinental.
Yeah. So,
hang on. No, interstate? I don't know.
Yeah, it's just a national. It was the World Heavyweight is what they called it. But it was more of a fucking national championship.
That's how America does things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the World Series with just Americans in it.
The world is their small oyster.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So TNA, which would have been after ECW died and after WCW died, TNA would have been the one that had proper television. They had for a while, like they had like fucking Kurt Angle and loads of guys, you know, that had left WWF. Were going to TNA because it was just a better deal. He got involved with them and he was brought in as their head producer and their kind of head of talent as well. So he was in charge of doing all the storylines and making sure that like wrestlers matched each other, kind of like in style. Like, so you can't just put two random wrestlers together. You could end up with bullshit. So you have to kind of choose, if this guy has this particular style and this guy, you know, has this one, that'll make an exciting match. So like the kind of head producer has a hard job of trying to make two lads in a ring kind of pretending to hurt each other look interesting. So he was brought in on top of this. So he was brought in to do that, and apparently he done fucking extraordinarily well. And he done so well that by August of 2016, he became the president of the company. They were like, just here, have it all. Like, you're knocking this out of the park. Now remember that day, August 2016, he's made the president of TNA.
Yeah.
By November of the same year, he's left. He's gone. He's gone because they owe him a shit ton of money. They owe him a fucking fortune, right? In back pay. So he says, listen, these fuckers just aren't paying me. They're just not paying me. So the whole thing...
Like, yours, Billy Corgan from Smashing Pumpkins, you're grand.
Yeah, but it would have been a lot of work, I'd say, involved in this.
Absolutely.
Because they had a weekly television show then in monthly pay-per-views and they had tours. And you know.
So he's working his bollocks off.
Yeah, he's working his whole off, you know. So he does something weird. While he's left the company, he starts funding the company. He loans TNA a load of money so that they can pay off their debts.
Yeah. Oh, maybe that's a way of getting his own money back in the long run. And also, if he lends something, you can probably get that back through suing them.
Yeah, but that's kind of what happened. That's kind of how we got it in the end. So all the money that they owed out to a bunch of people, he took his own money, gave it to them, and made them pay off a load of their debtors and him the money he was owed. And then they ended up kind of knocking on the head. They closed down. And they ended up going into receivership or whatever the fuck it was. So whoever took them over, they had to finance all their debtors as well. So we got whatever money he had loaned to them in the first place back on top of that. Do you know what I mean? Plus whatever percentage.
His accountant is good.
Exactly. So they nailed it. Now, fucking hell. In last year, 2019, Billy goes off and he buys NWA. He buys the National Wrestling Alliance. Outright. Flat out. Fucking mine now. He says, I'm not fucking working for anybody else. I don't really want to start my own promotion and start from scratch. I want to buy one that's been around for a while. So he goes and he buys like the biggest, oldest one that's still in existence. Obviously, there's no fucking, you're not getting anywhere near WWF or whatever the fuck. They never did. But he bought the National Wrestling Alliance, NWA. It was around this time last year. Yeah, it was around this time last year. Now, all these other companies, like every other company was underneath that umbrella. But what he done in 2019 is he made sure that every single other company that was ever associated with the NWA was disassociated. So they're now no longer like an umbrella group. There is just that promotion that he's working on fucking, I think he's trying to get them on TV and do pay-per-views and all this kind of shit, like, you know.
Make it happen, Billy. I want to see this. I'm sick of him talking about it. Do it.
Yeah, I'm sick of hearing about fucking wrestling.
I know it's not his fault, but
yeah, it's a poxy word. But that was Billy Corgan.
Yeah. So he's actually in two of the dirtiest businesses in the world.
Horrific. Yeah. If he put another time with the porn, he'd probably just die.
And like, politics. Yeah. No, politics, the next one he has to go into now.
Well, porn and pro wrestling are pretty much the exact same thing, to be honest with you.
Although we know a few people that made an appearance in wrestling, got hit with a chair, and then went on to become the president. So.
Yes, exactly. There's another. It's the only president ever to be at WrestleMania, to win a match at WrestleMania. So it's the only bit of support I have for the fucker. Who is your next one?
Yeah. My next one, the song I have chosen is Star by D-Ream.
All right.
So, forget about D-Ream for a minute. The story starts when Tin Lizzy's former keyboard player, Darren Wharton, sets up a band called Dare in the late 80s. Now, I'd heard of Dare, but only in the last couple of days did I actually go and listen to them properly. And that first album is great. It's great shite.
Yeah.
It's a slice of 80s rock, kind of motivational Stan Bush, Eye of the Tiger crap. But it's good. It's actually good. It was recorded in Joni Mitchell's private studio in Beverly Hills.
Cool.
Their keyboard player was a guy called Brian Cox. And little did they know that while they were traveling the world, playing to like 3,000 people, maybe at home, maybe less in Japan and stuff like that, the whole time that their keyboard player, Brian Cox, was a genius. An actual genius.
Yeah.
A genuine actual genius. So, he was a genius. As you can tell, I am not brushed with the same tarnish.
So, a genii. He was one of the genii.
After 2 albums with them, he left to join the Anglo-Irish pop group D-Ream, who you'll remember had the song Things Can Only Get Better. Yeah. It's a fun song.
Yeah, it's grand.
So he was the keyboard player for them for 2 albums as well. But his first love wasn't music, because when he was only 12 years old, he found the book Cosmos by Carl Sagan. And after D-Ream disbanded in 1997, he went back and finished his Doctor of Philosophy degree in High Energy Particle Physics.
Fuck me.
And went on to become one of the world's most well-known physicists, as he is now. He's also a celebrated presenter, writer, and the author and co-author of over 950 scientific publications. He's actually doing it. So he's a big deal. Like
Didn't he have a television show with one of the lads from Monty Python for a while?
He did. He's a massive Monty Python fan. He appeared live on stage with them.
Eric Idle, wasn't it? Was Eric Idle?
It might have been Eric Idle. And I know that he did something with one of them. It might have been Eric Idle.
He done like a tour and a TV show with Eric Idle, where I think Eric Idle would ask him questions. He was almost like a host or something. I can't fucking remember. I've seen one of them before.
Yeah. I know. I read a bit about his stuff. He's a massive Monty Python fan. Like that. Yeah, go on.
Because there was another thing I read about how he got into D-Ream years ago. That's all I know about this. I knew he was a scientist. I didn't know he was that level of a scientist. Now I thought he was just like. Oh no,
he worked on the Large Hadron Collider.
Fucking hell! Actually, Astro Martin worked on that as well. For one of our listeners, Astro Martin. So maybe he knows Cox. I read something before about how he got into the band. Apparently, I fucking know a lot about D-Ream actually for some reason. Every now and again.
I couldn't find much about him being in D-Ream apart from when I listened to Dare, I was like, there's so much keyboard going on. D-Ream keyboard, he was like,
I think I might have got most of this. I think Cox done a Rogan podcast years ago, and I think I might have got most of this from most of the stuff from that, where apparently he was rehearsing on the keyboards in his shed or something like that, and one of his neighbours knocked in saying like, fucking hell, was that you playing the keyboard? Like, yeah, shit, huh? And he was like, yeah, I like playing the keyboard, blah, blah, blah. And you must have putting a band together. Do you want to be in it? And that was D-Ream. Something like that.
He's like, I used to be in Dare. Who are they?
Yeah.
They're a rock band. Yeah, mate, we're not doing rock though. We're doing
that.
A song called Things Can Only Get Better.
Yeah.
Have you heard it?
Was the singer from the North or something?
He was North, yeah.
Yeah.
Peter Cunnar or something like that. John Cunnar.
Don't remember his name. I just remember fucking reading somewhere that he was from the North. But he lived in England.
Cunnar, I think is his name. Yeah. That's right, yeah.
I don't know.
Like, I'm not a fan. He's got a great voice.
Yeah, but that music is whatever.
That music is fucking not into it at all.
No.
Brian Cox really looks like he could be in Radiohead.
He does have that kind of grotty look about him, doesn't he?
He's like a good-looking guy, put together, nerdy, but he has that kind of indie haircut.
Yeah, tweed jacket wearing looking cunt, like green, them emerald green woolly jumpers. You know them? They love them.
I don't know. He seems to only wear like black t-shirts and stuff like that.
Good.
He's a really good presenter, but he's much more like he's not in your face. He's really kind of soft-spoken. He's still a little bit sort of. He's not out there in your face. He's very chilled out. You can tell that he's an actual genius.
Yes,
he just is.
Yeah,
the amount of stuff he's done. I chose D-Ream Star because, well, like, come on. It's the only one that related to anything to do with it. And the gas thing is like that thing that he studied. What do you call it?
The Large Hadron Collider.
High energy particle physics isn't necessarily to do with space, but it was the closest thing I could find. Here's a fun fact just before we move on. Yeah, Brian Cox is massive. Like he's forgotten about D-Ream a long time ago now. He has a million TV shows.
That's a trivia. That's a trivia bullet point. Yeah, it's not important to him anymore.
But here's another trivia bullet point. When Gary Moore left Tin Lizzy, Midge Orr from Visage and Ultravox filled in for a little while. Didn't know that.
I did not know that.
Yeah, there's a fun fact.
Did not know that at all.
So there's a monstrous career.
That's a big one, yeah.
So for a while he was obviously still interested in that stuff. But they didn't run side by side, those careers.
No.
Still, I chose it anyway.
No.
So what? Broke the real, did it?
Two different animals.
Who's your next one?
My next one, the song I chose was Blur, Charmless Man, because I think that might be one of my favourite Blur songs. I like it a lot. It's Dave Rowntree, who's the drummer from Blur. Dave Rowntree does a lot, man. Does a fucking lot.
I'm not going to spoil it, but I think I know what this guy does because I watched BBC news segment and I was like,
yeah, he does an awful lot. Well, first things first, he's also an airplane pilot. Has his full license and all. This seems to be just a rich people thing. Second of all, which is not related to his career at all, I just thought it was brilliant. Up until the kind of early mid 90s, he kind of considered himself a borderline alcoholic. Like he was mad for going on the piss all the fucking time. Yeah, mad for it. And he went on the piss one night with Susie and the Banshees, and they broke him, and he never drank afterwards. He went out the piss with Susie and the Banshees and just said, absolutely not, never drinking again. He literally broke himself. You can
imagine that happening. He's only Blur, like, do you know what I mean? Like,
exactly. He had a big cocaine habit as well for fucking years. He was mad into coke. And he done an interview. Who was the fucking Canadian guy who does the YouTube interviews that knows everything about everyone? What the
Nardwuar.
Fuck? Nardwuar done an interview with fucking Blur, and Dave Rowntree was after being on the bag for a couple of days, and he was coming down fucking hard, and Nardwuar was doing the interview, and Dave lost the fucking rag properly.
Really?
Yeah, lost it on Nardwuar, and fucking like started slagging him and fucking shouting at him like proper full wanker mode, full cokehead bag mode. Lost it completely, and after that he gave up the fucking bag altogether. And he said to this day he still like he has that video saved on his phone that whenever he feels the urge to do drugs or go into Cargill, he watches that video to see how much of a fucking idiot he made out of himself, and that puts him off doing it. Now, none of these things are his career. They're just little facts about Dave Rowntree. First thing about Dave Rowntree is he owns an animation studio.
Right.
Owns an animation studio called Nanomation. Who do an awful lot of stuff there. The last big thing they done a series for Channel 4 called Empire Square. They made that for Channel 4. It's like an animated kind of thing along the same lines as South Park. He's very interested in non-realistic animation. Like he's not into kind of photorealistic or photorealism animation. He's more into kind of weird abstract stuff. And he's written fucking, I don't think he's written books, but he's written papers and articles for
He's not in the Gorillaz though, is he? He's not in the Gorillaz though.
Yeah, exactly. I guarantee you he was involved in that somewhere along the line. I guarantee
possibly. Well, your man from Tank Girl, what's his name?
Jamie Hewlett.
Hewlett.
Or Hewlett. Is it Hewlett or Hewlett? Yeah. One of them.
I don't know. Yeah.
It's Hewlett or Hewlett. I think it's Hewlett. or Hedwig. Fuck, it's a H anyway. It's a fucking H. Yeah, he was, and he done all the art for them. He done the concept art for everybody. Yeah, that's right. Okay, his second one is that he is a Labour Party chairman in Norfolk. Yeah, he's like proper fucking elected politician for the Labour Party. Has run for office, the whole shebang.
Where is this?
In Norfolk.
Norfolk. So he lives in a house, a very big house. In Norfolk.
In the Norfolk. Yeah, but that's not even the mad thing, right? That's not even the mad thing. That's only the second maddest thing. The first maddest thing is that since 2012, he's been a full-time solicitor with a massive London law firm.
So he's a proper solicitor?
Yeah, proper, full-blown, full-time solicitor. Bloor, drumming for Bloor, and drumming in general. Just a little side thing for him now. Like, does it whenever. Yeah, grand. But his full-time job is he's a solicitor in criminal law.
That's mad. I didn't think this was who you were picking from Bloor, by the way.
All right. I know there's a couple of lads in Bloor done some other stuff.
I thought you were going to pick Alex James.
No.
Who is a professional cheesemaker.
That's right. I looked at that. There was
that's the one.
Yeah. I was going to pick Mantrax, who became one of the world's top watchmakers. I was going to pick that as well.
That's crazy.
But he quit Anthrax to go on. My ones I wanted it to be side by side. There was a lot of them I turned down.
You picked you. There was one that popped up on my radar, but I think you talked about it before. One of the guys from Steely Dan went on to be a missile defense expert.
That's right. Yeah.
I can't remember what episode that was.
Still to this day, I think. Still to this day, works for the U.S. government. He was a hippie. And became missile defense expert and tactical missile expert. And to this day, works for the Department of Defense in the USA. Yeah?
That's nuts.
That's fucking mental, yeah.
I saw that come up and went, no, hang on, Gareth brought him up before.
Yeah. I was going to do that one, but because we'd already kind of covered it. Anyway, that was Dave Rowntree, who was the drummer from Bloor. Also, every Sunday night, he hosts a radio show for XFM. There's another little thing for you. So he has about 8 jobs, that cunt.
He does.
That's Dave Rowntree. Who was your next one?
Well, speaking of military, I picked Johnny Cash, Like a Soldier. So, as the title suggests, Johnny Cash was a military man.
It was.
But before he went on to have 13 number ones from 91 albums, which sold nearly 100 million copies, he was in the United States Air Force for 4 years. Now, a lot of musicians have had military service. That's not anything super interesting.
Yeah.
But Johnny Cash's one is super, super interesting. Because not like the rest of them, Johnny Cash was a gifted Morse code interceptor.
I heard something about this before. I don't know anything about it, but I heard something about this.
And this is where it gets a little bit ropey. He was known to be a code breaker. But I'll get back into this in a minute. This was during the early phases of the Cold War.
Yeah.
And on March the 5th, 1953, which is a very important day in the Cold War, a young Johnny Cash took in a code and written it down that would be incredibly written it down incredibly important. It was the communication from Russia that Stalin had died, which made Staff Sergeant John Cash the first Westerner to learn of Stalin's death.
Fuck man.
Not just American. Like, he was the one that took in that thing. Now,
I just said fuck my hell as well. I can't talk tonight. Fuck my hell.
So yeah. So I read up more and more and more about this, and he was super, super gifted. But I did read a comment saying Johnny Cash wasn't the first person to actually transcribe it. It would have had to be someone that did Russian. He was one of the most gifted people at writing down. The fastest person that we knew at writing down the code. I was like, that's boring. I'm going to leave that out.
How about none of them details? None of them fucking pedantic.
It was from someone who was in the same company as him, an old man. Like, I was reading this on a forum. Like, I got that deep into it, going, how?
Lads were fucking throwing digs at Johnny Cash after he's dead now.
Yeah. And he's like, I shared a room with him, and he was very good at this, but he didn't transcribe it. That would have been a different way to hand him in. Shut up. He was the first person to
leave Johnny alone.
Yeah, I don't know if for Morse code you need to know the language. Do you? You would, wouldn't you?
I don't know.
I don't know. That's a tough one to know.
Would you? Well, I don't know. Yeah. Probably not, but I'm sure that wouldn't hurt.
He wrote Folsom Prison Blues during that time because
really?
he watched a document. Not because he was there. He wasn't there. He watched a documentary on it while he was on a break. There you go, on TV. Now, next on Inside. It was called Inside Folsom Prison, actually. And then and he said that it reminded him of how, like, he felt kind of trapped in the job and something like that. He was honorably discharged with a big scar on his face, but that was from an abscess. It's nothing. You don't get into war if you're a code breaker. Not really.
No,
I don't think you get.
No, they want you fucking behind the scenes.
So that was Johnny Cash's other job that he couldn't. He didn't, though. He didn't. He still became like one of the biggest country stars in the world.
Yeah.
So it's like code breaking for us 4 years. You know, he took in that Stalin code. Still in dead.
Stalin equals dead.com. That's what came in. Jesus. Very interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah, that's why I picked Johnny Cash, Like a Soldier. Who is your next one?
My next one is it's probably the most obvious one on this list. It's Rob Zombie. I just wanted to go through it.
It's obvious, but I fucking forgot. Forgot to think of it.
Yeah, one of the reasons I picked Rob Zombie is because I think there's going to be an awful lot of people who only know Rob Zombie from White Zombie and his solo career. And then there's going to be a bunch of people who only know Rob Zombie from the movies he's made.
Very true. Because he's handled some big fucking
he's
movies.
been given a lot of kind of big properties to kind of mess with. So he knocked 1998. He knocks White Zombie on the head. Kind of start his own solo album comes out the same year, I think. Hellbilly Deluxe, which is
good.
Kind of,
it's not White Zombie, but
it's not White Zombie, but it's decent. Yeah. So around that time, he started directing his own music videos. He was always mad at the movies, obsessed with movies. I actually watched. It could have been one of those like MTV Cribs or something like that, and he had like an entire wing of his house dedicated to movies, and he had them. He had this fascination with all of his favorite movies. He had to have them on every single format. So he had like a wing of laser discs, and then a wing of VHS, and a wing of Betamax, and wing of DVDs. You know, this type of shit.
Jesus.
So if it was available on any sort of format, Rob had to own it. You know, he was just a massive consumer of movies and television. Obviously, in particular, kind of horror movies and kitsch and shit like that.
Scary films.
Exactly. What's interesting about Rob Zombie's gone on record saying he doesn't believe in ghosts or Bigfoot or aliens or any of that shit. He thinks it's all nonsense.
Right.
How weird is that?
I guess he doesn't have to, but it would help.
But it would help. But
He should have said that.
Yeah, but when you think about like the movies he makes, like none of them are really supernatural. They're all about kind of human horror, aren't they? Like nobody's actually.
That's true.
You know, and that seems to be more.
There's not really spooky.
I don't think so. I don't think that might be one or two elements of it, but
I'll tell you what, I'm not watching them again to find out.
No, absolutely not. God help him. He's not terrible at making movies, but the movies he makes are for a particular type of person. They really are. And
I wouldn't mind, but he had a good start. He started out, he came out of the traps fucking flying.
Yeah, so I have a list of most of the movies he's made here. There's actually a couple of them here I never even fucking heard of. And again, I'm not going to go fucking looking for them either. But House of a Thousand Corpses.
I like that film a lot.
Yeah. The Devil's Rejects.
I think that's a good film. It's not a great film, but it's a very good film.
He done Halloween 1 and 2, the remakes.
Oh, they're shy.
Yeah, they're not good. They're not good. He done one called Werewolf Women of the SS.
That sounds cool.
Yeah, but I never heard of it.
No.
He done another one called The Haunted World of El Super Bisto.
Well, that's surely a supernatural themed film.
I fucking no idea. And then he's got The Lords of Salem, which is not good.
I never saw that.
Garbage.
I heard that's garbage.
31, which is garbage. And 3 from Hell, which completes the trilogy, the Devil's Rejects trilogy, which is not great either. It's fine. It's whatever. He also he directed an episode of CSI Miami as well.
Did he?
Yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah, he's been in a load of movies. He's been in a shit ton.
I heard him being in films and stuff like that. Yeah. Apparently he's a cunt.
I heard great things
from the band members.
Yeah,
that said, like during recording sessions, he was a prick.
Yeah, I heard a load of not great things.
That's just from ex-band members.
That's because his second name is Cummins. So
is it?
Yeah,
Robert Cummins,
Robert Bartley Cummins.
Jesus.
Yeah, but it's Cummings, but whatever.
Grade
whatever.
Cummings, yeah, you get that a lot. I think they called you that on BBC, didn't they?
They did.
Here we were with Gareth Cummings.
It's fucking written. It was literally written Cummins on the screen, and they kept saying Cummings. I was like, you fucking prick. Anyway, yeah, he also directed. He's kind of delving into stand-up comedy now recently. He directed one of Tom Papa's stand-up specials, live in New York City.
Oh, for a minute there, I thought like he was gonna like.
Do it?
Up and...
No. He's just starting to kind of move on to that. So Tom Papa's very funny. He's done one for Tom Papa there recently. Yeah, that's about it. It's just he's done a bunch of fucking movies. TV, he's done a little bit of. The main thing for television he done was that CSI Miami episode, which I assume was like when Tarantino didn't Tarantino do an X-Files. I think he done an episode of the X-Files.
Directors on and stuff like that,
and they're always a bit quirky. They kind of lean towards.
You know what? They can do one of two things. They can go out on their own way and do their own style and fuck up the vibe, or else they can go too like not narrow, but not broad enough. So you're like, what was the point of him directing that? There's no changing it at all.
Yeah, exactly. If you're not going to fuck with it, there's no point in doing it. You know,
because I know that like Simpsons had guest writers for an episode.
That's
right. Write a whole episode, like Ricky Gervais would write an episode.
That's right. Yeah,
or something like that.
That's right.
His episode's actually alright of the Simpsons.
Ricky Gervais has his moments. Like he has his moments. I don't mind them. I actually, from what I know, what I've seen of him, personality-wise, he seems perfectly fine. I just don't find his stand-up that funny. I don't find it's kind of dressed up lowbrow humor. Kind of, yeah. It's just
because it's attack. He fucking hates fat people, man. Hates them.
Yeah, and he's not skinny.
He's not skinny either. And he only got skinny when he got like his own little fucking chef or what do you call it, fitness guy. Yeah.
That Afterlife show was very good. I like that. The second season's not as good as the first one, but
season two looked like it was thrown together.
Yeah,
written on set. Season one is.
Yeah, season really one definitely has bits that are fantastic, but two has its moments, but as a whole, it's whatever.
Heavy on the grim.
But that's it's definitely 70% grim, like both of them, with 10% comedy and the rest of it is just filler or whatever. People sitting in graveyards talking. The meaning of life is probably the remaining 20%, you know. And
that actually comes right back around to grim people sitting in graveyards. Rob Zombie.
Exactly, yeah. But listen, that's Rob Zombie. Robert Bartley Cummings started making his own videos in 1998. I guarantee he done stuff before. I guarantee you.
So the average like music video is 3 minutes long.
Yeah.
So he just has to do 60 of them.
Maybe, but like
no, not 60. 30, I don't know. How many times does 4 minutes go into 90? Someone do the math there. Not doing that. But that's how many times.
I was about to say 12. Yeah, but I think that loads of his Rob Zombie videos have like intros and outros as well. They were a bit trillery.
Yeah. Well, he's mad into Russ Meyer and all that. He gets all the samples from the early things.
Yeah, exactly.
Look, his heart's in the right place.
He's following a little passion of his, which is great, and he's one of the only people that actually, realistically got to do it properly. When you think of like the music, the film,
he shouldn't have been given the Halloween franchise, which thankfully came back with a bang,
with a little banger there, a little killer.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah, it's super. Great. The fucking. Well, do you know what that movie? What the best thing about that movie was, if you remember the first trailer they released. The first trailer they released was the trailer was like 10 minutes long or something like that, or maybe 7 minutes long, and it was literally the first 7 minutes of the movie. That's how good the movie was. That they didn't have to chop it up to make a trailer. They just took the first 7 minutes of that movie when the internet blogger fucking dopes are pulling up to the mental institution. When they pull up from literally that bit, that's how the movie starts, up until fucking when you see him and fucking the crows start squawking or whatever the fuck happens. And that's the trailer. And it was I remember so good.
They didn't try to do anything mad with that film. They just did it normally. Now, it's not super experimental. Because it's not supposed to be.
No, it's not.
Don't keep experimenting and try and freshen things up.
Yeah. Remember, it's after the second one, isn't it?
In the late 90s and 2000s, horror movies started to have like rap soundtracks.
Oh.
In fact, the other day, I was researching some stuff for something else, and Maniac Cop 2 has a Maniac Cop rap.
Oh. There shouldn't be a Maniac Cop 2 in the first place.
Well, I'm thinking of when are they going to make that fucking new fucking series? I want that. It's one of my favourite things ever. Don't give it to Rob Zombie. Jesus Christ, don't give it to Rob Zombie.
Wasn't the first Maniac Cop Bruce Campbell?
He was in that, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's Robert Zarr. Robert Zarr died a few years ago, so he won't be able to be...
That's right. Anyway, that was him. Who is your next one?
My next one is My Chemical Romance. Famous last words. Right. Something about writing and being famous. Very good. So yeah, everyone knows My Chemical Romance are the well-known emo rocker kids from New Jersey who kind of came and went.
Central fucking bankers.
Bankers. They came and went, selling 9 million albums in the short enough time they were together. Well, actually, it's not that short. It's fucking 5, 6, 7 years. I don't know. They were actually due to play in about 20 days from now.
That's right.
A sold out gig in Kilmainham. That's obviously not going to happen.
No, they rescheduled it for next year. That whole world tour, I think, is pushed off to next year.
Next year, yeah. Oh, grant. Well, so after graduating high school, the singer Gerard Way decided to pursue a career in the comic book industry, as you well know. He attended. I love the way he went. Yeah, no. Yeah, no, yeah. No, thank you though for no. I appreciate it. We're good like that. We don't go. Yeah, no, yeah. Imagine we did that in this podcast.
Yeah, and then he don't do this and that and
this. I know, yeah. Yeah, I know, yeah. You fucking shy. I know, man. What are you telling me for? I know this. Yeah, we're doing a podcast though. Yeah, but I know.
Yeah, but I know. There's no one else here. There's literally no one else here. Who are you telling?
So anyway, he attended the School of Visual Arts in New York City and graduated with a Bachelor of Fine Arts in 1999. A year later he was working for the Cartoon Network in New York City when the 9/11 attacks happened. So, to deal with the emotional effects that the attacks had on him, he put himself a little bit back into music. And he said that he wanted to see the world. He goes, fuck it, I'm going to give this a go. So he wrote the lyrics to the song Skylines and Turnstiles, which became the first song My Chemical Romance ever wrote and came out with. So they blew up and exploded, mostly with the second album, I think. The first album was big, but it wasn't the second
was
album.
The big one, yeah.
Yeah. What was that? Fucking, I don't know.
Switchblades. Three Cheers.
Three Cheers.
What's the second one? First one is Fuck My Life. I can't remember. Bloody.
Well, it has Skylines and Turnstiles on it.
Second one is I'm Not Okay. It has Not Okay on it, which is the big one.
Yeah. So they blew up, and his career in comic book was put on the back burner until 2007, which was a year after the Black Parade. So still while he was in My Chemical Romance.
Yeah, their biggest phase as well.
Yeah, definitely. When they were at their peak, he co-founded DC Comics' Young Animal imprint, and he released, as you know, the Umbrella Academy through the DC subsidiary. It won the 2008 Eisner Award, which is presumably some big comic thing.
The Eisner Award is like the biggest comic award you can get, yeah.
Yeah, that one.
Like the Oscars for comic.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, right, Grant. That one. I knew it was big, but I was going to, I'll just wait till Gareth and what that is. Best finite series, best limited season, and it was subsequently turned into a Netflix season.
That's right, yeah.
Which I really, really liked.
It was fun, Fun. Second one's due out soon, I think. Second season's due out
next month. Yeah. I don't know if it'll definitely come out now or what the story is. But
no, I think it's made. The trailer and all came out there the other day.
Oh, Grant. He has also written for the Doom Patrol series.
That's right.
That's cool.
Which is not a good television show.
No.
They didn't.
That's not a good.
That didn't work, no. That didn't work.
That's 2 seasons, isn't it? Or
Brendan Fraser is in that. Like,
is he?
Yeah, he's the voice of Robot Man. It's fucking mental. That spun off out of Teen Titans.
Teen Titans. That was Titans was Titans. Yeah. Not Teen Titans. Just Titans was good.
The first season's great. The second one is wherever.
I haven't watched it. I'm going to leave it. I'm not going to bother.
Don't stop at it.
Look, he's always seemed much happier doing comics. Because when he was in MCR, he was an absolute druggy, alcoholic mess.
Yeah.
To be honest. Which he admits.
Oh, yeah.
He was, he was a bit mad.
I know he hosts like a weekly Dungeons, and he's an absolute nerd. Like, an absolute fucking nerd. The fact that he was in like one of the biggest kind of rock and roll bands like of its era, like proper stadium filling band with like solos and guitars and banging drums and screaming and shouting about fucking dying and killing people and cancer or whatever, and then it's going home and rolling 12-sided dice, do you know what I mean, to relax. Like, you know what I mean? You're fucking your elven fucking arrow wielding warrior enters a cave. It's a fucking snake down one end of it and a fucking troll down the other one. How do you want to proceed?
And he just played to like 30,000 people.
Exactly,
or something like
100,000 fucking punters screaming. All little girls with fucking purple hair and purple eyeliner, wearing wedding dresses and shit. And black sweatbands.
All the artwork for the albums, didn't he, as well?
I think so. He's a very good artist. I think if I remember correctly, if I remember me bullshit correctly, while he was working for Cartoon Network until around 9/11, he was also, I think he was coming back from the school called the Cupid School of Comics, which is like one of the most famous kind of comic art schools in the world.
Yeah.
And I think he was doing like night classes or day classes. He doing some sort of classes there. I don't fucking know. And he was coming back from there or going there when the planes crashed, and he's seen it firsthand. And that's when he went, fuck this shit. I kind of want to get out of the city here.
He was also mugged at gunpoint when he was 15.
There you go. He lives in North Carolina now.
He seems a lot fucking happier doing this as well.
He's definitely happier. He's fucking eating food. See the size of him?
He's eating all the food.
He's fucking living well. He is living well. So he is. He's not going to fit into that.
Chemical rum.
Yeah, he's not going to fit into that fucking marching band outfit anyway, I tell you that much. But they obviously, they got their shit together. What was it, last year? They done a once-off tour.
Did they do it?
Yeah, they started it. Yeah, they done like 2 or 3 gigs. They done a weird thing where they put a post up on Facebook with just a date, and then like a week later it was like a place, and then a week later it was like ticket links, and it was a big fuck off gig. Yeah, just fucking teasing into them. Well, they done 2 or 3 gigs, and they were great.
No matter how long that reunion lasts, comics I think are going to be his career for as long as he wants to do it. That doesn't really have a time schedule.
Yeah,
like he can go on doing that into his 60s or whatever like that.
Yeah,
and he probably will if. He doesn't seem to. I'd say My Chemical Romance is a nice little cash booster. Also, it's good for the fans who are all grown up with kids now, presumably. Yeah. Who's your next one?
My last one. My last one is Neil Young, and this is another one where I went down one road and discovered another road, and the other road was equally as interesting, but possibly less known. So I picked Neil Young.
I don't know what else.
You might know about one of them. You might not know that he was actually involved in it. But I picked "Rockin' the Free World" because it's a fucking outrageous song. So
yeah, it's great.
Neil Young hates digital formats. He fucking hates them, right? He fucking hates them. Now he has less hatred towards like lossless formats, but MP3s are his fucking enemy. Is
he an audiophile? Enemy. I suppose if you're in a band, you should be an audiophile.
Big time audiophile. Big time audiophile. So
he's one of the guys who can tell the difference between a 320 MP3 and a FLAC.
He 100% can. This is his whole deal. He said that like whenever he listens to MP3s, he said doesn't matter what bit rate it is, could be the highest, best quality one that everybody's touting as being the next fucking big thing. He said always sounds like it's being played through a little shitty speaker in a shower to him.
I can tell like a badly compressed MP3.
Yeah.
Compression of MP3 is vicious on music.
Yes,
it does. Like people go, you can't tell the difference. If you do music, you actually can't tell.
You can, yeah. There's little things you can pick out. The warmth is
taken out of it.
Yeah.
The warmth has been taken out. A lot of the time, not always, but yeah.
I remember reading a thing before about MP3s, and basically what they said was, if you're using like a lossless format, right, like a CD or a record. Now, there's really no such thing as a lossless format, kind of.
Yeah.
But let's just say lossless format for the sake of it. So you're using FLAC, or you're using CD, or you're using Wave. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or vinyl or whatever. The whole idea is that if you had an entire symphony orchestra playing and you recorded it, and while that orchestra are playing, you took a pin and dropped it on the floor. Somewhere in the information recorded, the noise of that pin hitting the floor is in there, right? With MP3s, that noise doesn't exist. So basically what it is, it just takes like, if you think of a fucking brick wall, and the brick wall is the audio, what they do with MP3s is they take like the bottom fucking 8 bricks out of it and leave the top 4. Because the top 4 are the ones at the top of it, they're the ones that matter. So
yeah, there's a good scope of EQ bands that are not getting through.
They're just not there, exactly. So that's the way it was always that I read, and the way it was explained to me, that like when something's recorded losslessly and presented on a format that has like fucking little to no compression, or very minimal compression anyway, everything is in there. Every single thing is in there, somewhere. And if you've got a good enough fucking EQ band and a good enough engineer, you'll be able to find it in there. It's needle in a haystack, literally, but you will be able to find it. But with MP3s, it's gone. So he fucking hates MP3s. So a couple of years ago, I think it was 2013, 2014, he formed a company called Pono Music. P-O-N-O, Pono Music. And Pono Music's whole fucking deal was he wanted to create a lossless audio format that would kind of rival and destroy MP3, right?
So it has to be small, like small enough.
Kind of small, but it had to be lossless was the whole thing. So they were adding compression, I think, but it was extraordinarily minimal. But the whole gimmick to Pono Music was going to be a device called the Pono, right? And the Pono was like a MP3 player, you know? It was a pocket audio player. I remember when it got released, I was very interested in it. It sounded fucking incredible. It came with, the biggest issue was, because he was creating his own format, it was a proprietary format, right? So they had to launch their own fucking kind of app store for getting music, you know, their own music site. And I think what they done was when you bought the Pono player, you got like software to rip your CDs or your records that would put them into that format that the Pono would play. Grief of it. It was an absolute audiophile fucking thing. It wasn't designed, it wasn't like made
but
to be pointed at.
Put FLACs on your like MP3, like a music player.
So a lot of them wouldn't play FLAC. A lot of them wouldn't play FLAC. A lot of them wouldn't. There's too system intensive to fucking decode them.
I suppose in this day and age, we don't need MP3s anymore.
Not particularly.
With the storages we have and the internet speeds, you shouldn't really be listening to, like, obviously Spotify, shout out to Spotify, have 3 different, like, low, medium and high quality.
What's their top one? 320? I think it's 320.
I think it's supposed to be higher. It's supposed to be.
I don't know.
It's not supposed to be a different, I don't know, either way.
I think they worked out with, I think it was 128, 125 and 320 round about in their own terms, because I don't know whether they actually use MP3. I don't know. I'm sure they have their own fucking system, like you said, their own kind of proprietary format as well.
Yeah,
that only plays on the Spotify app.
That's what I think it is. So I don't think it's MP3.
I don't think it is MP3. But I think I read somewhere that's someone had worked out that's roughly comparable. Will be like around 320, around 256, around 128. But so he wanted to launch this Pono player, but like, a lot of audiophiles were very interested in the idea that they could, like, they'd have their main hi-fi at home for listening to stuff, but if the stuff they wanted to listen to on the go, because the thing about like a kind of big audiophile cunts is that they listen to music, but they definitely have their favorite fucking 100 albums that they just listen to over and over and over again, and they're almost studying those albums. They're trying to find mistakes. They're trying to find...
Yeah, some of their favourite albums aren't their favourite albums musically.
No, like,
they're just
far
like,
from.
whoa, listen to that.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the audiophiles go on about Daft Punk's last album.
Yes, that's right.
Not a phenomenally great album by any stretch.
Yeah, but the way it's made,
But it does sound outrageously
exactly good. That and the Force Rage Against the Machine album are the albums that audiophile kind of like hi-fi enthusiasts use to balance records, use to balance their systems. So even if somebody's going to be listening to classical music, they will still get a copy, an original pressing of the Force Rage Against the Machine album, and sit there and they'll use that then to balance their EQ and where their speakers should be. Even if they've no interest in that band, they hate that band, they're not listening to the music. They're listening to the frequencies and the tonal variance that's being recorded.
How can you hate that? If you don't like that album, throw your stereo away.
You could be dealing with Neil Young fans, do you know what I mean? You wouldn't fucking know. You wouldn't know. But listen, it all turned to shy a couple of years after. In 2017, the company that handled their music store, their online music store, was a company called Omnifone, and they were bought by Apple and just crushed.
Oh, yeah.
Apple bought them and said, "Get fucked." So they stopped making the Pono around then. Now they're still kind of supporting the Pono.
Can you buy a Pono?
Yeah, you can still buy them.
Are they dear?
They're mad money here. Mad money. They're like, I think between £400 and £700, depending on what size hard disk you want them. Because like I said, they're designed for fucking hi-fi enthusiasts. They're not for fucking your average Joe who just wants to listen to music on the bus on the way to work. But yeah, Omnifone was bought by Apple and destroyed. Pono, they stopped making them, but they're still kind of supporting them. Their website has said under construction since 2018, so it could well be gone by now. But that's the Pono, right? That's what I was going to talk about. And it's still kind of interesting that Neil Young was heavily...
Oh, that's not the one.
That's not the fucking one. That is not the one. Here's what I found out while researching the Pono. That Neil Young is part owner of a company called Lionel. And Lionel make model trains. Neil Young is fucking obsessed with model railways. Fucking obsessed, right? So he's that good at model railways and fucking railway sets and fucking like the big things that weirdos have in their attics. He's so obsessed with this that he actually brought that company back from the brink of bankruptcy.
Oh, he was probably a fan. They were going under.
He was a big fan.
I won't have that.
Exactly.
Here's a cash injection.
That's exactly what happened. But part of the deal of him buying into this company was that he had to be very involved in their day-to-day stuff because he had loads of ideas. So apparently, one of the things that turned him around is that they changed their...
Billy Corgan's the railway
exactly,
station.
Yeah.
Models.
Billy Corgan of fucking model railways. And his whole thing was he wanted to be heavily involved in it. And apparently one of the things that turned this company Lionel around was they brought in this new control system. Like one of the
Pono player.
Exactly, yeah. Like sometimes you might see a video online of some people who have like their entire attic converted into fucking Austria and it's fucking train lines. And you'll see these big fucking, looks like a cross between like a DJ controller and a mixer that they use for controlling the trains.
Oh, all the trains, all the lights, and even the building lights and
exactly, yeah. So
kids eating ice cream, all of it.
Exactly, all the animatronics and the smoke and all that shit. But he was instrumental in the reworking of the control system to the point where now that control system is considered to be like possibly the best one in the world in the model railway fucking scene.
Better than Hornby.
Better than Hornby. Hornby is actually, if I remember correctly, Hornby is now owned by Games Workshop, who make Warhammer.
Really?
Yeah, they bought them. I'm pretty sure it was Hornby they bought. About 10, 15 years ago, they bought Hornby because they wanted
all the same grass.
Same shite, like, yeah. I think what they wanted, the reason they bought them was Hornby used this injection mold processing for making the shells to the trains that was like super high tech. And it was the only companies in the world that had it were these companies in China. But like the tax and duty and shipping and all the stuff was kind of fucking crazy back and forth from China. And so they found out Hornby was up for sale. They bought Hornby just to get a hold of these machines for fucking making space marines and spaceships and all this type of shit. And it turns out like there was still a good market in Hornby. So I think they still, as far as I know, it's Hornby. They still make the trains and all this shit. But he was instrumental in that control system. But Neil Young personally holds 7 US patents for model train innovation. So
that's mad.
7 US patents.
He's not the only one into model trains because we found out recently someone who's extraordinarily mad into them and had it as a secret for years. No, I wouldn't have the money or time. Rod Stewart, this whole time, for the last 20 years or so, has been bringing cases with him. So when he finishes a gig, he goes back to the hotel room and paints up like a little shop corner or something like that. Eventually,
we talked about the world.
And has absolutely incredible looking piece of like railway set, like kind of looks like a kind of New York kind of cityscape sort of thing with like a train. That's crazy. So
I'd be mad into that. I'm not gonna lie. I'd be avoid like a big gaff.
A tour with Neil Young and sing songs about railway stations.
Backstage, put the big hats on them. fucking leaning over, having all their little the road techs and fucking roadies and all running up to the hotel room and putting the fucking desks out and putting everything together. Everything's on 6x4s and they're putting it together. I was like, oh, where are we going to go tonight? Oh, we're going to go to Vienna, Neil. We're going to Vienna. Yeah.
The difference between them and what Little John gets up to.
Fucking, yeah. I don't know.
Stark contrast.
I personally might be more interested in what Neil Young gets up to. And that grim fucking, that grim, horrific industry. Like, listen, porn's grand for 2 minutes, isn't it? You know what I mean? After that, you have to live with the filth guilt of what you just done.
Railway,
what you've just seen.
Railway stuff, you end up with more glue all over you, but like, it's worth putting the time and effort into.
Or wholesome, yeah. Also, holds its value for longer as well than a wank.
Yeah.
Who is your next one? Or your last one, isn't it?
Mine will be even my last one, yeah. And I've chosen Bad Religion, Eat Your Dog. So, continuing on in the trend of California punk band singers having degrees and doctorates and PhDs, we should talk about Bad Religion's frontman, Greg Graffin. So Bad Religion, obviously, just a quick background, are obviously an incredibly important punk band. Sold about 5 million albums. They've had 17 studio albums alone. But Greg Graffin has a PhD in zoology.
Wow.
Not only that, it's not just education or a hobby. He's actually lectured at the University of California and Cornell. And Cornell's actually where he got his PhD. He's written books on evolution and religion. He has a book called Anarchy Evolution, which is the best mix of Bad Religion and zoology I think you're ever going to get. Anarchy Evolution. He's very cleverly titled. Name is something like in your band, and it's also what you do here. Yeah, he's crazy into this, and he, like, I think, does he still do it? He does still do it occasionally. But for a while, when Bad Religion, let's say Bad Company, when Bad Company weren't, a completely different band weren't playing gigs, Greg Graffin was off doing all these lectures in California. And he's also mad into kind of, a lot of people in science don't like using the term atheism. I've noticed that when I was talking about Brian Cox as well. I was reading about him as well. He doesn't really, they definitely are not religious. You can't know that much about the world and then go, oh, Jesus. You just can't. It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
So he has a lot of books about religion and how it ties into evolution as well as that. Presumably how it doesn't really tie into it at all. And in 2011, a new type of species, well, a new type of extinct bird, you can still have that. That's a thing. A new type of a dead thing.
Yeah.
A bird was named the Quilani Graffini, after him for his contribution to evolutionary biology, his public outreach through music, and his inspiration to young scientists around the world.
Very cool.
Bad Religion, he knows his shit about animals and evolution and all that stuff.
Well, here's a little side one. Here's a little side thing for you that's going to link back to something you already talked about. So you talked about Offspring.
Yeah.
And that album Smash. That album Smash came out on Epitaph Records.
Yes.
Know who owns Epitaph Records?
Him?
Brett Gurewitz, who's the guitarist from Bad Religion.
Really?
He owns Epitaph Records, yeah.
So he must have made a mint off Smash.
All the money in the entire world. Like
11 million copies.
Like
the fact that they didn't have to sell that off to a different well, did they have to production?
I think they would have been bought. Eventually, the back catalogue would have been bought, but Epitaph would still retain the rights to press it. Now, Epitaph also had NoFX and Pennywise, Rancid. Out Come the Wolves was on Epitaph as well, by Rancid. So Epitaph is almost responsible for that entire kind of big early 90s punk uprising, that record.
There was, like, because a lot of these bands, Bad Religion, Green Day, even Offspring, were all going from the early 80s.
Oh, yeah.
And it was only in, like, 10 years later, someone went, oh, shit, this is kicking off. Because of Green Day, Dookie. Surely because of that.
Well, I think Dookie and Smash and Out Come the Wolves all came out in the same year. Like, Epitaph, I think so. If not, they were all within, like, 16, 18 months of each other. Like, Epitaph started in 1980. And, like, I'm looking through the list of bands that they've had. Fuck me. Alkaline Trio, Converge, Descendants, Every Time I Die, Green Day on the first two albums. Lawrence Arms, The Messengers, they're big now. Millencolin, who was our boys with Kemp that we talk about all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Pennywise, Propaganda, Quicksand, Raised Fist, Refused.
Refused have to be now one of the biggest punk bands in the world as of now.
I don't know. They kind of fucked off for a while and fucked themselves over. Social Distortion.
Am I thinking of Refused? Who am I thinking of?
Refused are the fucking New Noise band. They had one giant fucking song. New Noise was the name of it. Refused are. They'd be big. They'd be along the same lines like Snapcase or something.
What am I thinking of that band that are Rise Against is who I'm thinking of.
Rise Against were on, they were on Epitaph as well, yeah. If I go into their former artists, Agnostic Front, Bob Log the Tours that we talked about before, Circle Jerks, The Cramps, Dag Nasty, Death by Stereo, The Distillers, Down by Law, The Dwarves, Frank Turner, Gallows.
That reads like the who's who of punk in the California
Hell
area.
Is for Heroes, The Hives, Hot Water Music. He has a couple of weird ones here. L7, Leathermouth, Madball, Newfound Glory, Nick Cave.
See, that's a side job, but it's music related, so it's not really.
Yeah,
it's not getting on the list.
Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds put albums out with him.
Jesus.
No Effects, Poison Idea, Rancid. They actually Rancid own their own kind of imprint called Hellcat Records. That's part of Satanic Surfers. Fuck me, like the list is. Jesus Christ. The Vandals, Voodoo Glow Skulls, Weezer on Epitaph.
Still?
Yeah, they're fucking, they have one of them co-sign jobs with Atlantic Records and Epitaph.
Just putting out bad cover albums now.
Yeah, Turbo Negro as well. The list is fucking outrageous for Epitaph.
Yeah, that's
so
mad.
They're an incredibly important record label. Still considered to be an independent record label because it has one owner.
Presumably that's Smash was the biggest one that came out of that. Initially.
You would have to assume that it was fucking. It was Smash.
Well, frontman Greg Graffin is off learning about evolution and zoology and birds and bees and
religion. It would have to be. Yeah. I think one of the lads from Bad Religion was in Minor Threat as well. I can't remember. One of the other guys from Bad Religion was in Minor Threat. Could be in the drummer. I can't fucking remember.
They're all hanging around each other and what's the word? Incestuous.
Yeah, but that's the same. A lot of those bands are
much like Little John's second film or Akon's entire.
Like Akon City.
Yeah, Akon City. That was our. I always found that very interesting. Actually, there's a lot about that one.
A lot of fucking stuff to talk about.
Side jobs, or else previous jobs that were very important, or else just massive, what you call it, higher level qualifications and abilities that these people have outside of their musical
superpowers.
Yeah,
not far off superpowers. Yeah, that was it. We will be back on Saturday for our radio show as normal, and we will be back next Monday with another podcast. You can support us on patreon.com/Lost Art Podcast. It's $5 a month. That gets you access to a lot of exclusive stuff. If you don't want to do that, that's fine. Go to facebook.com/Lost Art Podcast. We're making a website at the moment. It's just going to be lostartpodcast.com. There probably won't be much on it. Let's be honest. It's mostly going to be like a launch pad for all of our different links to all of our different sites. And because sometimes somebody will ask you,
a tidy little place to put everything. Though,
that's a little kind of bookmark of fucking where we are on the internet. Because sometimes somebody will ask you, where's your podcast? And they go like, what do you mean, where's your podcast? Like, what's the answer to that? Like,
they're in the podcast zone.
Where the podcasts are.
I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, fucking, where's your podcast? Send us the address to your podcast. I don't know the address to the fucking podcast.
It's like if you had your own Apple company. Where's your apples? I don't know. Super Value?
Yeah, exactly. Like, just go to wherever you get your apples. Like, mine are there as well. Like, we're on
every. Be fucking delivering this to you.
I said that to somebody once. They were like, where do we get your podcast? I was like, well, on your podcast app. They're like, what do you mean? So, where do you get your podcasts? They're like, I don't know. So, but
that means we're going to be the first podcast they ever listen to. That's kind of cool.
It has to be. Yeah. Like, it really has to be.
Yeah. Anyway, don't forget to listen to our last episode as well, which was
the last few have been top notch. I have to say, I've been impressing. I've been impressed with ourselves. The last
we've been knocking it out of the park considering we're doing this remotely. Yeah. But do this and please share. If you're listening to this section of it, just immediately share now because the podcast is obviously over. As soon as you're done listening to us ranting towards the end, do share this out. It helps a huge amount.
Big time.
So thanks for listening.
Thanks, guys. See you next week.
See ya.